All right, picture this. You're standing in the scorching Gobi Desert 70 million years ago. And before you stands something that simply should not exist. It carries the bloodline of history's most brutal killers, the theropods. But forget T-Rex and Velociraptor, because this creature chose to tear up every survival rule its ancestors ever wrote. It wields 3-foot-long blade, like claws curved, and razor-sharp, looking like props ripped straight from a horror film. It towers before you, like a colossal phantom defying the laws of physics. This is Therizinosaurus, the scythe lizard, a puzzle powerful enough to paralyze the sharpest minds. Here's the twist: scientists have been fiercely debating this creature for nearly a century. Some look at those deadly claws and declare it the most savage killing machine ever to walk the earth. Others insist it was just an eccentric giant, using those weapons of destruction for the most peaceful purposes imaginable. Some believe it was a solitary creature, yet new evidence hints at a social structure far more complex than anything we've ever pictured. So where does the truth lie? Brace yourself, because Therizinosaurus is a paradox made of flesh and bone, and we're about to unravel how such a monumental design flaw managed to dominate an entire ecosystem packed with history's deadliest hunters. Let's start with the raw numbers. At 33 feet long and weighing roughly 11,000 pounds, equivalent to a full-grown African elephant, its body was a complete insult to everything the theropod lineage stood for aesthetically. While distant relatives like T-Rex evolved to be lean and explosive, built for burst speed, this creature sported the bloated belly of a sumo wrestler and the widest hip structure ever recorded in paleontological history. The strangeness only deepens when we look at its outer covering. Instead of rough, scaly skin, evidence from related species suggests Therizinosaurus may have been wrapped in a layer of coarse, primitive feathers resembling stiff hairs or dusty porcupine quills, blanketing everything from its long, gangly neck down to its massive frame. At the end of that flexible neck sat an almost laughably small head, equipped with a sharp, keratinous beak instead of serrated, flesh-tearing teeth, giving it a strangely gentle face that stood in complete contradiction to the deadly arms swinging below. But that beak wasn't simply built for chewing leaves. New isotope analyses suggest Therizinosaurus may have been an opportunistic omnivore. When plant sources ran scarce, it was willing to use that vice-grip beak to supplement its protein from eggs or small animals, making it a vegetarian that wasn't entirely pure. And then, there are the stars of the show: record-breaking claws, nearly 3 feet long. Your first instinct is weapons of mass destruction, but biomechanical pressure studies from 2023 revealed an ironic truth: they were actually quite flat, thin, and surprisingly fragile. This ignited a fierce debate among paleontologists, producing 3 leading hypotheses. Hypothesis A: deterrent weapons. Hypothesis B: specialized foraging hooks. Hypothesis C: sexual display signals. So which hypothesis is the final answer? The truth is, paleontologists still cannot confirm a single definitive explanation. The nature of this creature may be an intersection of all 3. One fascinating new detail involves the inner ear structure of this species. Recent studies indicate it had exceptional low-frequency hearing, similar to modern elephants. This suggests Therizinosaurus may have communicated through deep infrasonic rumble sounds, capable of traveling miles across the vast Gobi Plains. Looking deeper, the body structure of Therizinosaurus shows it chose durability over speed. With short, stocky legs, it couldn't run fast, but it was extraordinarily hard to knock down. Its low center of gravity allowed it to stand firm like a pillar, creating a solid defensive stance against any predator. That long neck, combined with those clawed arms, formed a safety perimeter around its body. Any enemy attempting to close in for a bite at vulnerable areas first had to get past 6 swinging scythes. Even a glancing strike to sensitive spots, like the eyes or nose, was enough to send a hunter retreating, unwilling to trade an infected wound for a meal. On top of that, its coarse feather layer may have acted as mechanical protection, limiting damage from an opponent's bite. It made itself a hard-to-swallow target in the most literal sense, forcing predators like Tarbosaurus to seriously weigh the cost of any attack. Which raises an even thornier question: how could a lumbering giant, with arms as delicate as crystal, survive among the most bloodthirsty tyrants of the Cretaceous? Let's move to the next part. To operate 3-foot claws that were dangerously fragile, Therizinosaurus had to run a supreme operating system. CT scans of its skull reveal a paradox. Despite its small head, it had exceptionally developed brain regions controlling vision and balance privileges. This nervous system worked like a precision processor, allowing it to control its arms down to the millimeter, executing deflecting strikes with the discipline of a trained swordsman. Picture the scene. Therizinosaurus stands beneath a tall canopy, using its claws to pull branches within reach. It moves slowly until the ground begins to shake. A Tarbosaurus, the dominant tyrant of Asia, explodes from the undergrowth. In terms of offensive power, Therizinosaurus is completely outmatched against that bone-crushing bite and killer instinct. In the wild, running means exposing a fatal weakness. So despite being no predator, this creature chooses to stand its ground, turn to face the threat, and spread those 3-foot claws wide to establish a no-go zone. The confrontation erupts the moment the gap closes. Therizinosaurus doesn't flail wildly. It keeps its center of gravity low on those pillar-like legs and delivers rapid, precise sweeps. Its brain calculates distance to keep Tarbosaurus's tooth-filled head just out of reach, targeting the eyes and nose. But Tarbosaurus accepts deep lacerations in exchange for an opening. In one sideways charge, the tyrant drives straight in, using its massive bulk to slam those outstretched arms aside. What's remarkable here is Therizinosaurus's muscular reflex. When pressed at close range rather than fleeing in panic, it exploits its extraordinarily flexible shoulder structure to maneuver within tight quarters, a rare ability among the large dinosaurs of its era. At this distance, another dimension of the battle reveals itself. This is no longer just defense. It's a test of endurance. Outmatched in raw power, Therizinosaurus nevertheless possesses a body built like an armored vehicle. Its wide hip structure and deeply planted legs transform it into an obstacle that simply cannot be toppled easily. While Tarbosaurus burns enormous energy on missed strikes, Therizinosaurus fights through sheer persistence, patiently waiting for its enemy to give up. It doesn't need to kill, it only needs to prove that bringing it down would cost the hunter everything, and possibly a permanent injury. Now prepare yourself for the most haunting aspect of paleontology. Therizinosaurus is in truth still a ghost. Though we speak of it as if we've memorized every bone, the reality is that from 1948 to this day, scientists have never excavated a 100% complete skeleton from a single individual Therizinosaurus coloniformis. What you see in museums or blockbuster films is actually a massive high-risk composite. Scientists had to perform a hypothetical surgical procedure, taking the record-breaking arms of Therizinosaurus and mounting them onto a body frame reconstructed from close relatives like Segnosaurus and Erlikosaurus. This creates a thorny physics problem. When you scale a creature up many times based on smaller species, the laws of gravity and skeletal load-bearing change entirely. Was that belly truly that enormous? Was the upright mobile fortress posture accurate, or was the spine actually more horizontal? We are staring at a picture missing its core pieces, imagining the rest from indirect evidence. This gap exists partly due to the Gobi Desert's preservation conditions. The saline sandstone layers and extreme temperature swings over millions of years typically allowed only the densest, hardest bone elements, like the claws, to survive, while the more porous skeletal portions of this giant body often decayed or deformed completely before fossilization could occur. And beyond the bones, we are completely in the dark about the emotional and social life of this species. While enormous fossilized egg clutches from related species have been found in Mongolia, suggesting communal nesting behavior, not a single nest has ever been discovered for Therizinosaurus itself. Were they solitary swordsmen wandering the desert alone, or devoted parents raising offspring within complex communities? Every inference we make today is like trying to hear a full symphony through scattered, disconnected notes. Recall the historic blunder throughout the 1950s. These claws were mistaken for the ribs of a giant sea turtle. While we have since found hind limb and pelvic bones confirming it walked on two legs, the truth is that every time a new fragment surfaces in the Gobi, the shape of Therizinosaurus shifts once more. Every new specimen discovered doesn't close the file. It only opens new questions about its existence. Could we be just as wrong about this creature today as our predecessors were when they mistook it for a turtle? Its true appearance may be even more bizarre and illogical than anything we can currently imagine. Therizinosaurus wasn't just a bizarre dinosaur, it was the pinnacle of evolutionary specialization. It succeeded brilliantly by claiming an ecological niche no one else dared touch. For millions of years, it was the absolute sovereign of its own world. No competitor challenged it for food in the high canopy, and no predator was reckless enough to risk attacking a mobile fortress with 6 samurai blades, always at the ready. It was a machine tuned to perfection, converting vegetation into energy and converting fear into a defensive weapon. Yet in nature, perfection always comes at a steep price. When you evolve to become too specialized for one particular environment, you simultaneously become extraordinarily fragile against large-scale disruption. 66 million years ago, the Chicxulub asteroid struck Earth and instantly rewrote every rule of survival. Skies darkened with ash, temperatures plummeted, and the lush forests, Therizinosaurus's sole source of sustenance, began to wither and die. Another lethal factor was its reproductive cycle. Studies of dinosaur eggs in the Gobi show that large species like Therizinosaurus had slow breeding cycles and invested heavily in nest protection. As the world descended into chaos, the loss of nesting grounds and the shortage of food for hatchlings caused their populations to collapse rapidly with no chance of recovery. It was precisely then that its magnificent design became a death sentence, a creature requiring hundreds of pounds of fresh vegetation daily to sustain an 11,000-pound body, and a sharp mind simply cannot survive in a dying world where food has been reduced to dry, withered scraps. No matter how sophisticated its operating system, it couldn't conjure food from fields of ash. Therizinosaurus didn't go extinct because it was a flawed design. On the contrary, it was too perfectly built for its world, so perfectly that when that world collapsed, it had no way to adapt in time. And so we have a complete profile of the paradox known as Therizinosaurus, a creature carrying a killer's bloodline yet possessing the heart of an herbivore. A swordsman wielding the longest blades in history, yet claws that could be as fragile as a lady's fingernails. It reminds us that nature never operates the way we expect. It follows no aesthetic rules, no predetermined templates. It only cares about what works most effectively at any given moment. The very existence of this species is proof that evolution is not a straight line toward aggression. It is a journey in search of balance. It accepted being bizarre. It accepted fragile weapons, all in exchange for an unchallenged position in a world overrun by tyrants. Until we find those final missing pieces lying somewhere beneath the salted sands of the Gobi Desert, Therizinosaurus will remain a proud ghost, a challenger to every boundary of paleontological science. Thank you for joining AncientDoc. Stay curious, stay questioning, and remember the truth sometimes lies in the pieces we have never yet found. See you in the next file.